What if I told you Christianity is being silenced, and most people don't even realize it? In a world where truth is under attack, how can believers stand firm? Today, we're diving into why culture seems to be losing its mind and what Christians can do to reclaim their voice. We live in unprecedented times. Biblical values, once the foundation of Western civilization, are now labeled as intolerant, outdated, or even harmful. Cancel culture targets Christians who dare to speak out, while mainstream media often portrays faith as irrelevant or oppressive. But here's the thing, this isn't just a shift in public opinion, it's a spiritual battle. And if we don't recognize it for what it is, we risk losing our voice entirely. Let me give you some context. A recent study revealed that only 6% of Americans hold a biblical worldview. Think about that for a moment. 6%. That's not just a statistic, it's a wake-up call. It means that the vast majority of people in our culture, let alone our churches, no longer see the world through the lens of Scripture. And here's why this matters. When fewer people embrace biblical truth, Christian values are pushed to the margins of society. This decline doesn't just affect individuals, it reshapes entire institutions. From schools to media to government policies, we're seeing a systematic effort to reframe moral issues like marriage, gender, and life as purely political debates rather than spiritual truths. And when Christians speak up, they're often labeled as intolerant or even dangerous. Many Christians feel unequipped to respond to these challenges. They're asking questions like, how do I defend my faith without being labeled intolerant or an extremist? Or is it even worth speaking up anymore? Maybe you felt this way too, hesitant to share your beliefs because you're afraid of backlash or rejection. Let me give you some real-world examples. Tim Tebow, his public displays of faith drew both admiration and ridicule. He was mocked by players on the field and parodied on shows like Saturday Night Live. Or consider Coach Joe Kennedy, who faced years of legal battles simply for praying on the 50-yard line after games. These aren't isolated incidents, they're part of a larger pattern. Even within the church itself, there's a problem. Research shows that only 30% of pastors in the U.S. hold a biblical worldview. If our own leaders are struggling to stand on Scripture as their foundation, how can we expect the broader culture to take Christian truth seriously? This internal compromise weakens our collective voice and makes us more vulnerable to external pressures. But here's the thing. Christianity has faced challenges like this before, far worse than this before. From the Roman Empire to modern secularism, the church has always thrived when believers stand firm in truth and love. The question isn't whether Christianity can survive, it's whether we're willing to say the quiet part out loud. In John chapter 16, verse 33, Jesus reminds us, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." This promise hasn't changed. When we look at history, we see that moments of cultural opposition often lead to revival, not because Christians retreat, but because they step forward with courage and conviction. The early church didn't grow by blending into Roman culture. It grew by standing apart from it, with radical love and unwavering truth. So, how do we reclaim our voice today? Here are 3 practical steps every Christian can take right now. Know what you believe and why. Dive into Scripture and apologetics so you can confidently articulate your faith. The Bible tells us in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15 to always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that we have, but do so with gentleness and respect. For example, when someone asks why you believe marriage is between one man and one woman, or why life begins at conception, are you ready to respond with clarity as well as compassion? If not, now is the time to prepare. Engage with grace. It's not about winning arguments, it's about showing Christ's love while standing firm in the truth. Too often, Christians fall into one of two traps, either staying silent out of fear or coming across as combative or unloving. For example, instead of arguing on social media about hot-button issues like gender identity or abortion laws, focus on building relationships with real conversations. Don't be afraid to speak up, whether it's in conversations with friends or on social media platforms like YouTube or Instagram. Your voice matters more than ever. Remember, the goal isn't to change everyone's mind overnight. It's to plant seeds of truth that God can water in His timing. Our message is not always received by the person it was intended for, but there are people listening, there are people reading to the things we say whose lives are transformed. I know. I'm one of them. The truth isn't always loud, but it can't be silenced. If you've ever felt like your faith doesn't have a place in today's culture, I'm here to tell you it does. Your voice matters because God has called you for such a time as this. If this message resonates with you, and I hope it does, I want you to take one more step today. Natasha Crane has an incredible new book coming out this February called When Culture Hates You. It's a powerful resource that equips Christians to stand firm in their faith while navigating a hostile world. Pre-order your copy today. I'll leave a link below. What do you think is the biggest challenge Christians face today? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if this video encouraged you, share it with someone who needs hope right now. Stay informed, stay faithful, and keep speaking the quiet part out loud.